Hello, everybody. You hear me? How about this? Is this any better?
Is this any better?
Is this any better? Anybody hear this microphone?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay, I just want to see which one's working here. Is this the one you can hear?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the one you can hear right here. Okay. Okay, so this is the one you can hear?
Yep.
All right. I just want to make sure I get the right one I got some new equipment here, so I want to make sure you can hear me. Everybody can hear me okay? Okay, so we got Brandy. Brandy, you can hear me okay? Got Jared.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, and Natalie, you can hear okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Thanks everybody for coming. This is Hangout with Brother Christensen. Thanks again for joining. I'll give yourself the points for showing up, and we won't take anywhere near the full hour unless you want it. I'm going to submit to that torture. I know you have better things to do, so you clearly get the points for this. And thanks again with your busy schedules. I know because after high school, I was a student for 10 years at BYU, Utah, and Oxford, and it's a lot of work that you put in with part-time jobs and families and everything. So I know that life is hard. Really, just this hour is yours. You can ask me any question you want. I'm going to try to give you secrets to helping you improve your grade so that you get it. I know a lot of other students won't ever listen to this recording, so they won't get the secrets that you get. I'm going to try to be as transparent as I can. And try to give you as many tricks and things that I think will help you improve your grade. I'm very lenient, I'm very merciful, you'll find, and I want you to do well in this class. And then we'll talk about the substance of the class as well. If there's any topics that you want to go over, confusion that you might have with some of the topics that we're studying now. I think we're still in contracts. And then if you're having problems with your groups, anything, group dynamic that you want to talk about, maybe you want to change groups or something, we can talk about that too if you feel comfortable with that. So is there anything on your mind you want to start with?
For me, I'm still having a hard time understanding consideration.
Okay.
I understand some of it, but it's still not clear.
Okay. That's a good question, and there are no bad questions in this class, by the way. Consideration is actually a really good question, but there never is a bad question here. So consideration is kind of legal's way of saying it's at some point long ago there was somebody somewhere who probably on a street corner said, hey, I'll give you $1 million if you hold your breath for 5 seconds. And the guy did it, and the person held his breath for 5 seconds and then said, where's my $1 million? And the other guy wouldn't pay up, and they went to court. Now I'm making up these facts, but some judge somewhere decided that it wouldn't be fair to give $1 million to the other person for a 5 second breath hold. And so the judge held that there wasn't consideration for the $1 million. And instead of just saying you didn't give something in return for the $5, they made up the word consideration. And so here, Natalie, why the judge said consideration is beyond me. It's kind of a confusing word, but it's kind of like saying, it's like when you hold the door for someone, you say, how considerate. It's like a legal word to say, boy, that was considerate. That was something nice in return for something else. So think about something of value for something else. It's a judge's way of saying, there needs to be something of value if you're going to get something else. And so oftentimes you'll see these courts bend over backwards in contract disputes to try to find a way around a contract if they feel like it's being unfair. And consideration is a good way to do that. If right now, if I told Jared, hey Jared, I'll give you $1 million if you, hold your breath for 5 seconds, and you all witnessed that, and you all took me to court for that, do you think it'd be fair that I would have to pay for that?
No.
But to Jared, it might be fair because, hey, I said it, he's got witnesses, and, he wants the $1 million, but so a judge somewhere thought that was unfair. So to Natalie's point, somewhere a judge said, I know there was and maybe there was a written contract that said, I will give $1 million if Jared holds his breath for 5 seconds. Somewhere though, a judge said, there's not consideration. So I am tearing up this contract because there was no consideration for the $1 million. And I wish there was a better way to describe it, Natalie, but basically, think of something of value, something in return. And it's a lacy word for saying something of value. And I hope that helps you, but it really is kind of just a dressed up way of saying that.
Okay.
So does that help you, or did I confuse you even more?
No, it helps. It's good.
Okay. And a lot of these definitions in the contract section will be about ways around a contract, because again, a contract is between two parties, and you think that they're ironclad and that a court should automatically hold. But everything that we're studying is really finding ways around the contract so that a judge can find that it's unfair, like duress. It wouldn't be fair if I took Jared right now and put a gun to his head and said, okay, you will write a contract now that you will pay me $1 million because I sold you a horse, right? And then the horse died, and it's too bad. That would be duress. And you guys would witness that, and you would say, yeah, but Dan held a gun to Jared's head while he was signing it under duress. It wouldn't be fair to hold Jared to that contract because I had a gun to his head. So let's rip up the court would rip up the contract and say that was unfair. And so a lot of these definitions, a lot of these things you'll be studying about a contract are ways for a court to find a way around a contract between two parties in a court of law. Otherwise contracts between two parties, I mean, we could get all sorts of weird results that wouldn't be good for society, right? Parties that didn't have fair advantages one with another, parties, lemon cars that drive off the lot and then the steering wheel falls off and the seller just says, well, too bad, you signed the contract. So courts are trying to make it fair even if somebody signs something. And so there's these laws that come out of the courts about consideration and duress. And so when you're doing your exam, you want to think about what was best for society and what tools does a judge or court, what have they made up over time that help a court find fairness in contracts, even if two parties have signed the deal? That's what you're looking for. Anything else that's bothering you about offer acceptance plus contract plus consideration equals contract?
I have a question about contracts. Can you make how official does a contract have to be? Does it have to be like signed by some authority, or can you just do it between two people on a written paper? Just say, this is a contract and we both sign. So like how informal can they be, I guess?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And one of the more famous contracts was between two oil barons that was written on a crayon on the back of a matchbook for the sale of a big oil well that burst out all this oil and made another guy a billionaire. And it was written on the back of a matchbook, a big deal. And one tried to tell the other that it wasn't right because it was written on a crayon in the back of a matchbook. I hereby sell you. And this whole theory of law about statute of frauds and things came out of that we'll be studying later from this little matchbook that was written in crayon. I hereby sell you the oil well number 74 in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Very interesting line of cases where that made a billionaire and another guy lost everything. And so part of your question though too, Jared, is what if What if my cousin signs on my behalf? Does he have the right to sign? You know, he sells you my house, and my cousin just says, well, you know, I have the right to sign. Just pay me the 700 grand for my house, because you know, I can sign on behalf of Dan. I have authority to sign on his behalf. Do you believe him? He's my cousin. You know, what if my wife did it? At what point does a court start saying, yeah, they do, or no, they don't? And so in property law, it's a certain theory that, hey, you know, whoever owns the property has to sign it. If it's husband and wife, they both have to sign. In certain other respects, somebody has to have actual authority. And in some regards, you can have implied authority, it's called. And it's a good question from Jared, because it's there again. There's been a whole line of cases about, you know, representatives of a business coming in and doing big deals, and a director of the company came in and signed all these contracts, and the other party signed, and massive amounts of wheat or whatever were sold. And then the company called and said, well, our VP didn't sign that. I said, well, yeah, but you sent your director, and he had implied authority, you know, and the courts held, look, a director level had, you know, he came in a suit, he had business cards that said your company name on it. It looked like he was a representative of your company. You'd made calls before calling him a director and stuff, and they would hold for that side. So unfortunately, that's why we have courts, is to decide, yes, they had implied authority, or no, they didn't have implied authority. And why property law, on the other side, when you're selling actual, you know, stuff you can put your feet on, like property, houses and land, has to be the actual owner who actually is on the court, the records of the county. That's a little bit more solid. You have to have the actual person that bought it notarized and whatnot. Whereas sale of wheat and other things can be more maybe implied, and because it's less of a tangible thing, less of a, you know, of a piece of land that for some reason in America we care more about. And so, Jared, you hit upon something that's really big, and I think there's a section that we talk about in property where it'll get into that a little bit more. In fact, I think it's next week where we get into the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code, where things got so bad in the United States where I would come to Jared and say, hey, why don't you purchase these shares? They're the shares in the San Francisco Bridge. And you would purchase them from me, and I'd sell them to you, and I'd walk away with your money during the Depression, and you'd buy shares in a bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge, that I had no business selling to you because I didn't own them.
Huh.
And so I think we'll wait on that question a little bit, because I think it'll become more clear next week when we get into the Uniform Commercial Code, and you'll see where the government finally said, look, we've got to put it into more of a codification so that people in the United States know a little bit more about when things need to be signed, by whom, when can you, you know, what is the statute of frauds, what actually has to have a writing to it, and when can you know, Jared and I just have a handshake deal, and it'll be enforced by the courts if two people see the handshake and can witness to it. And so contracts takes on a whole, it's a big deal when, you know, it may not be that big of a deal at this point in your life, but I'll guarantee you, you know, when you've got $50,000 riding on something, and, you know, for 3 snowmobiles that you're selling, and it's your whole livelihood, and somebody walks off with your livelihood, and your family's, you know, wondering why they're not eating that night, it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, probably more than you wanted to hear, but it's a good question.
Yeah.
Looks like Stephen joined too. Hi, Stephen. Please give yourself the points for showing up today. Thank you. Any other questions in our second week of contracts? If you do go to law school, your first year of law school is the hardest year of the 3, and you'll spend the first year in civil procedure and criminal procedure. So you'll learn kind of how the process works, how many days you have to file what, and whether it's on the civil side, which is more of suing construction loans or people in civil court versus criminal court when you're defending someone against going to jail or prosecuting someone. You'll take constitutional law, so you'll learn about searches and seizures and freedom of religion and speech and all of that. You'll also take torts, when people step on your ankle or hit you in a bar or something like that. You'll take contracts, which will be a year long, and you're getting a taste of it here, why contracts are so important, and go back all the way to Sanskrit writings in ancient Sumeria, why they blazoned them onto ancient pillars, deals between two people selling corn or wheat or whatever. And then you'll take property, where why real estate is a little bit different and why it needs to be treated different, because the United States feels so different about tangible ground, and why ground sale is so much more important to us, and why the sale of acreage real estate is so much more important. And those are some of the baseline classes you'll take that first year. And then after that, you can take violence in the law and other types of classes that maybe interest you, environmental law, evidence, and business law, or litigation, or those kind of things. And your second 2 years are more fun years, if there is such a thing. But regardless, to be a better business person, if that's what you want to do, I think it's important to take a good business law class, because it'll always be part of what you're dealing with in business, as two parties try to negotiate and try to figure out how to deal with regulations or deal with one another in a context where there's regulations and laws touching on the deal that they're making. While you think about maybe other questions about the stuff that we're studying, make sure that I want to give you a couple of tips to get a good grade in here. It's just as a reward for coming. Make sure that you appeal your tests. The exams are the hardest part of this class, as you've probably noticed now. And the course creators have done it that way on purpose. They're difficult. There are multiple choices. You saw just 4 questions, but every little question has a little nuanced answer that hinges on a tiny little fact, just like it would be in law school. Little tiny facts make all the difference in the world, and they may seem really subtle, but that's the way the law works. If you appeal it, though, I'm going to give you points back for making an argument to me, because that's the way the law changes, right? I'm going to consider you to be a lawyer fighting against me as a judge and saying, you know what, Dan, or Brother Christensen, I guess I should call myself, you're wrong. I think you're wrong on that answer. I think it should have gone this way, and I think society would be better off my way because of this. And even if you know you're wrong and I think you're wrong, maybe you're right in some ways, and I'll give you points anyway just by the strength of your argument. And you can still get an A just by arguing your appeal, because I think that's what the law is about. That's the way we change and morph. The law, there really isn't, it's not like engineering where 2 + 2 is always 4. I want you to argue to me that 2 + 2 could be 5 under certain circumstances. And if you do it reasonably and not too, vociferously, but with objectivity, I'll give you points. I'll give you most of your points back. And there's no reason why you can't do really well. Even if you get a 60 on the test, there's no reason why you can't get it up to an 80 or 90 just by virtue of your good faith arguments. So don't just take the easy 4-point motion to dismiss, which is fine too. But give me some arguments back, and I'll give you some points back. That's a big way to get points, okay? Hopefully that helps you. Other ways to get points, make sure you meet with your group every week. Your quiz questions have been really good. All the groups have done pretty well on that. And I've tried to make sure the line of quizzes are pretty reasonable and straightforward. I think most people have been doing good on that. Case briefs, I think our TA has been grading those and has been pretty lenient for the most part. Just otherwise, just get yourself your independent studies in each week, and there's no reason why after that and the appeals of the exams why you can't, get an A or B out of this class. Are you liking your groups? Are they rude to you? Are they excluding you? Are they beating you? Is there any problems in your groups?
My group's great.
Okay, good.
I think my group's good. I'm going to meet with them tomorrow for the first time since I've been meeting with the wrong group.
Oh yeah. Okay, Jared. Yeah, you and I have been going back and forth on email. Well, you kind of met with a different. You didn't meet only with a different group. I think you were meeting with a different class, right?
Yeah.
That kind of happens with 4 or 5 different classes we're offering in this thing. So just let me know via email if your points haven't kind of transferred over, because we'll wave some magic over that. That can be frustrating for you, I'm sure.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anything else about the class? If not, I'll give you a half an hour back, but I sure appreciate y'all coming.
I don't really have anything else.
Okay. I'll give you half an hour back for your families and your jobs and your homework and all the stuff you're engaged in, but thanks again for coming. And, let me know via email or phone. I think my cell phone's listed in the materials. You can call me anytime. I'll try to get back to you as quick as I can. I want you to do well in this class. You guys are awesome. And I remember being in your position. So my heart goes out to you, and just, let me know what I can do for you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right. Have a great weekend. Bye.
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 Bye.